Okay, here we are at the arcade. Today we have a Dirty Drivin that has a bad steering wheel pot. So we're going to replace the pot, and we're going to start with removing the screws in the control panel on the outer edges, and it's on hinges on the bottom, so the whole control panel will just fold over into our lap. Okay, here it is in calibration mode. As you can see, I move it back and forth. It moves itself when it's sitting still. And it's real jumpy. The wheel's all the way to the left, and it's drifting back to the center. Wheel all the way to the right, drifting back to the center. Okay, there was 4 screws to remove, the outer one, the next inner one, and on this side over here, of course, we had the outer one and the same inner one. So with the 4 screws removed, the control panel just flips down. And here we have the steering wheel control system. This big cylinder right here is actually the feedback motor, which gives real-time feedback via this fan belt, which is attached to the main steering shaft here. So what we have to do is replace the pot, the control pot, which is right here on the end of this shaft. So let's get into that. Okay, Houston, we have a problem. The pots that they sent me are plug and play. They have pins on them, and it's supposed to have a socket that plugs into them. The one that's in the game, however, is a solder-on pot. So I may be able to make this work, but I would need a plug to plug onto the to mate with the pot, because I don't want to solder wires to it. So now I'm going to have to go back and find out what's going on with it, and either get another pot or the correct plug that plugs into this. Maybe they have a retrofit plug to change it over to this style pot, but I'll have to get back to the boss and find out. Well, here we are back to fix this stirring pot in the Dirty Drivin. The last time we were here, we found out they sent us the wrong pot, so we couldn't fix it. We had to button it back up like it was. This time they sent us the correct pot, so it was an exact replacement. So all we're going to have to do is replace it and solder the leads back on it, and we'll be up and running again. It's pretty straightforward. The pot is just in a bracket here, held on by the nut. The shaft goes inside this shaft, and it has a cap head screw which tightens down on the shaft on the pot, and the pot has a flat surface on it, so there will be no problem getting it set in the correct position. It only goes in one way, so that'll be a plus. So all we have to do is unscrew this cap screw and unscrew this nut that's holding it on, and should pull right up. Then we can put the new one in. Then I'll come back and strip the insulation off of the old wires, unsolder the wires one by one, and replace them one by one. That way I make sure I get the exact correct order, the correct wire back in the right position. And That's basically all there is to it, so let's get started. Now, when you're working on these arcade games, you never know what you're going to run into. Some things have standard US hardware, and some of them have metric, with metric threads. This one has a combination. The bolt, the socket head bolt here, that's holding the shaft on the pot, is a standard US, and it's a 7/64. But the nut that's holding the pot on is metric, and I believe that's going to be a number 12 millimeter wrench. So like I say, it helps to have both standard and metric tools in your arsenal, because you never know what you're going to run up against. Okay, while I was taking the nut loose, I also noticed that this bracket is loose. And if you look down here, the screw that holds this bracket in is loose. So that means somehow it loosened up, or it never was tight from the factory. That could be a reason why the pot has failed prematurely, because this game is probably only on the order 7 months old. And these are supposed to be long life pots. So I would think that this being loose, matter of fact, it picks right up out of there. The only thing holding it in was the set screw on the shaft of the pot. So with that said, it was probably putting extra strain on the pot itself. So we're going to have to make sure we go through here and tighten up some of these nuts and bolts that may have come loose. Alright, now we got the pot secured back onto the bracket. Now we're going to have to put the bracket back in and line the flat spot up to the where the socket head screw is, and we're going to have to be able to tighten this up. It's a Phillips head screw, and right here there's a panel light for the dashboard that's in the direct line of it, so there's no way we can get a screwdriver on it even sideways to try to even attempt to tighten it. So we're going to have to take this screw and pull this panel light out of the way so that we can tighten this bracket back up. Okay, well, this is the first time I've worked on one of these, so my bad. It appears that this screw is not loose. It has a washer and a spacer, and the screw is actually tight. So obviously that is made to not fit tight, so that the pot does have play. Maybe that's what's supposed to keep it from having any force applied to it to make it last longer. So I was actually not correct there. So, you know, you live and learn, and that's the only way to do it. You get in there, you see how things are designed and made, and then you can come to, a lot of times, the correct conclusion and find out that you were totally wrong to begin with. And that's how you learn. Okay, so now all we have to do is slide this down in the groove, and at the same time put it in here so that it lines up with the screw, so you can tighten it back down on the shaft. Well, we've tightened down the screw onto the shaft of the pot, so mechanically is all installed. Now all we have to do is unsolder the wires off the old pot and solder them onto the new pot. Alright, while the soldering iron is heating up, I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to carefully cut the old heat shrink off of all three of the terminals so I can unsolder the wire from the old pot. And I'm going to install some new heat shrink, and then we're going to solder the wires back on the new pot. Okay, I've pre-tinned the terminals on the new pot. So now I'm going to take my soldering iron and one by one take these wires off and solder them onto the new leads. I'd like to show you how to do this, but I don't have a tripod for my camera here. Maybe in the future I'll look into that, but Soldering is pretty straightforward, so you get the idea of what I'm doing. I'll just take one wire at a time and solder to each one of the leads. Well, here we are with the finished product. The leads have been soldered onto the pot, and new heat shrink installed. Strain relief is on it, and everything is tight. So all we have to do is pull the control panel back up, button it up, fire the game up, and find out if we fixed the problem. Alright, we fired the game back up and it's loaded up. So now we're going to coin it up and see if the steering wheel is fixed. Alright, now it's smooth all the way from one side to the other to select the track. So it appears to be working already. And same thing, we turn the wheel slowly and it's supposed to slowly scroll and pick whatever vehicle you want to use. And it's going both ways like it should. Before it was jumping around, and even in the high score screen you couldn't enter your initials. Alright, let's start a race and let's see how the force feedback works in the steering. Alright, turn the wheel back straight. The vehicle is controlling perfectly, and we have force feedback in the steering wheel like it should. So it appears replacing the steering pot has fixed the problem. So another on-site arcade game has been repaired. Now it's time to play a little bit of game. This is Raw Thrills, Dirty Drivin.